He was the most unprofessional, inconsiderate, and rude person I think I have ever had to deal with. Hi everybody, it's Cicely, Justine here, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I make lifestyle and sister lock videos just about every week. I'm also a small YouTuber looking to grow my channel, so if you want to support me on my journey to 1,000 subscribers, just hit that subscribe button and it'll mean a whole lot to me. So let's get right into it. As you can see from the title of this video, I've been through quite a lot within the last couple of years, and I wanted to break down my journey and share it with you all for a few reasons. One, it'll help me eliminate the shame and guilt that I've been carrying for a while now. Two, I want my channel to be as authentic as I can, so I wanted to share what's really been going on with me. And three, a few of you have been asking me why I'm not as present on social media as I once was, so I wanted to answer that question with this video as well. So I'm going to start way back before the pandemic hit at the beginning of 2020. During this time, in my eyes, I was at the height of my life. I was in the best shape that I had ever been. My body looked exactly how I wanted it to. I was doing well on my hip hop cardio YouTube channel. I had an online business selling detox tea that was making me a lot of money. I was making motivational videos on social media that people really enjoyed and gravitated to. I was super confident in myself and my future, and I also just started up a second business venture in network marketing that was taking off pretty good. But by the way, I'll never do network marketing ever again in life, but I'll save that story for another video. So all in all, I was at the top of my game at the beginning of 2020. Then the pandemic hit and my whole life began to change. So the pandemic hit around March, April 2020, and I was sent home to work instead of coming to the office. Now, you would think that this would be good for me since I didn't have to be in traffic going to and from work, and I can just work from the comfort of my home. But no, ma'am, it was not good for me, and instead it sent me into a deep depression. Now, I don't know if it was just me or what, but I think a combination of not socializing at work, not going to the gym to work out, not hustling and meeting people, my side businesses, and being in constant quarantine just all of a sudden sent me into a depression. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but that's what happened to me. So I was depressed from the start of the pandemic in March 2020 until about August when I got pregnant with my second child. So I got pregnant August 2020 and suffered from prenatal depression. I found myself in a bed a lot, crying all the time for what appeared to be no reason. I was unmotivated, slacked off, really bad at work, doing the bare minimum just to get through the day. I worked from my bed the entire day and just completely neglected myself, my work, and my self-care. And I isolated myself because I had gotten so used to quarantining. So the only people who really knew that I was suffering was my husband and my mom. So in the midst of me suffering with prenatal depression, I also made up in my mind that I wanted to try a home birth for my second child. So long story short, the baby was born at the hospital. Things didn't work out and I was unable to have the baby at home. So I had to deal with the disappointment of not having the birth that I wanted on top of baby blues, on top of already existing depression that I was suffering from. During this time, I just remember being super sluggish and moody, crying on and off, didn't want to talk or socialize. I was cooped up in the bed all the time. In the midst of all this, I was pumping a ton of milk and I was donating and selling it to other moms. When I say I was pumping a ton of milk, I was pumping a ton of milk, okay? Like literally. Like I was pumping 60 ounces of milk a day minimum and running out of room in my freezer. And I even had to buy a deep freezer to store all the milk. Now I want y'all to please take note of how much milk I was pumping, because I'm going to come back to this point because it's going to explain a lot of what was going on with my body later on as I continue to tell this story. So fast forward 6 months after I give birth, I lost my job. which took another hit to my mental health as well as my pockets. Not only did I lose my job, but I was also getting hit with an IRS tax audit, which was one of the most stressful experiences I have ever been through in my entire life. I remember my IRS auditor, he was the most unprofessional, inconsiderate, and rude person I think I have ever had to deal with. So just imagine losing your job and then within the same month, you're getting audited by the IRS, all the while trying to heal from having a baby. It was horrible, and my faith was really tested during this time. I was praying a lot, talking to God, and just continued to hold faith, even though it was extremely hard. And as much as I want to talk about everything that went on through losing my job, I can't get into it for legal reasons. But just know that it took a huge toll on my family and my mental health. Now, around 7 to 8 months after having the baby, I started to have my battle with my physical health. I was at the point where I wanted to hurry up and heal so that I could get back to my first love, which is dance and my hip hop cardio with Cicely channel. So at this point, I'm slowly starting to do walks around the neighborhood, do small workouts at the house to get back in shape. As I was doing all of this, I noticed that I was losing weight throughout my entire body except for my stomach. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it because I knew I just had 2 10-pound babies that would take a toll on my stomach. But the way my stomach was sticking out and how tender it was, it really concerned me. So that's when I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with diastasis recti, or recti, which is another word for ab separation. And my abs were separated so much that I could stick my whole hand in my stomach and basically feel my intestines. I was also told that I had an umbilical hernia and that I needed to have surgery to remove it. And I was told that I couldn't dance again until I could close the gap and get my pelvic floor back stable. So when the doctor told me this, I thought about how still traumatized I was from my prior 2 C-sections. So I just refused to have another surgery and I opted for physical therapy instead. So I went to physical therapy for a year and I was able to close my gap in my abs from about 5 fingers to about 1 and 1.5 fingers. So that's good. But with all of that, the hernia still remained. So I got scheduled for hernia surgery in January of this year, 2020. And if you want to check out how my surgery went and everything, I do have a vlog that I'm going to link below in the description. All right, y'all. Now, remember I told y'all to keep in mind that all that breast milk I was pumping. So while I'm going through everything I'm going through with losing my job, going to physical therapy for my stomach, dealing with the IRS, and suffering from my depression, I'm still pumping 60 ounces of milk a day. So when my son turned 1, I decided to wean myself off of producing breast milk, and I dried up my milk during like a 10-day period, and boy, was it painful. Moment of silence for that pain. Moment of silence. Not only the pain of drying up the milk, but the aftermath of weaning myself off of producing so much milk and how my hormones would react and take a huge effect on my mental health. So shortly after I stopped pumping milk, I remember being abnormally moody, being up and down all the time. One minute I was smiling, laughing. Next minute I'm crying in rage, hallucinating. And at times I just remember being completely out of reality, out of touch of reality, not understanding the world around me. Then one day in August of 2022, I finally hit rock bottom. I always remember this day as it felt like I was dying and my spirit or soul was trying its best to leave my body and just be free. But since I was awake, it couldn't leave. It all started when I stopped having the urge to eat or sleep. All of a sudden, I just wasn't hungry and had all the energy in the world at night and just couldn't sleep. It had been 48 hours that I hadn't eaten or slept. And my husband finally called my mom for her to fly down to help me. And I remember not wanting to be touched, not trusting anyone who tried to talk to me or whether it was my mom, my husband, nobody, family members. I didn't want nobody to touch me. I refused to be rational with anyone. I felt like everyone was my enemy and I just couldn't trust anyone but myself. And at this point, everyone was trying to convince me to go to the hospital, and I just refused to go because I didn't know what was actually going on with me and whether it was hormonal or what. And like I said, I didn't trust anyone and felt like everyone was going to get me or whatever reason. So my mind was just not functioning properly since I hadn't eaten or slept in over 2 days. So it's going on 3 days, and my husband and my mom finally forced me into the car to go to the hospital. And initially I was pissed at them because the hospital was very traumatic for me as I started hallucinating and hearing and seeing things since I hadn't eaten or drank. But in the end, I'm glad that they took me because they were able to get me hydrated and they fed me to get my mind back in order. And I was able to go home after a few days. So that mental breakdown will always have a special place in my heart because although it was traumatizing since I really couldn't pinpoint what exactly was going on with me, I learned a lot. And I also learned the love that my husband and my family have for me. And I learned how strong I really am. And I learned more about my body and ways to keep it in balance. And I most importantly learned the love that God has for me to see me through those times. So how am I doing now? You probably want to know. So these days I'm still working to heal my mind and body while staying at home, taking care of the kids. Although it's hard raising a family without my actual family around to help me, it has been a blessing for me to be home with my children and not having to rely on daycare. So I'm definitely very grateful to God for this season in my life. And right now I'm trying to find my way. I'm basically a new stay-at-home mom trying to find balance and peace in it all. I still have my bad days, but for the most part, I'm doing pretty well and I'm going to therapy regularly. And I use this YouTube channel actually to help me as my creative and my professional outlet as I continue to try to heal before I actually return to my dance channel. And I thank God for my husband, my mom, my family, my friends for being there for me through my trying times. And I can't wait for the day that I can repay everyone for the positive impact they've had on me as I've gone through these growing pains. I'm loving myself more and I'm getting into my grown woman phase, and I'm just proud of the grown woman that I'm becoming. I will continue to hold onto God's unchanging hand, and I just thank Him for seeing me through and never leaving my side. And you know, sometimes things happen to us without our permission, like me basically losing my mind. I didn't ask myself to do that. It just happened and I had no control over it, but that's okay. And it's okay to recognize that something happened out of our control. But once God gives us the opportunity to get back in control, the question becomes, what do we do now? For me, I'm going to prioritize my health, including my mental health. I'm going to enjoy spending time with my family in this season, and I'm going to grow closer to God by studying more of His Word. And today, I combat guilt and shame through sharing my story, and I hope that this story has touched someone else and gives you the courage to combat your guilt and shame and anything that you've been through. So thank you all for tuning in. If you like this video and you want to see more story time and help my small channel, please like this video and hit that subscribe button. It will mean a whole lot to me. And thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.